Thanks everyone for joining us today. We are tackling a conversation that every construction executive and VDC professional talks about all the time in their real life, and that is around ROI with construction tools and construction tech. Here to help us kind of unpack and talk through this is Ben Stocker. Ben, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about kind of your experience in the industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. Like you said, my name's Ben Stocker. I'm the Senior Construction Technologist at Skender. That's a GC based in Chicago. My job is just all the R&D and then implementation of any new technology that helps out our teams. So that's a lot of ROI calculations and figuring out and whatnot. So I deal with this all the time. I've been in construction for like 15 years now or so, and Skender for the past 10, and then dedicated to construction technology for the past 7 or 8 years of those 10 at Skender. So yeah, deep in this world, but it's an exciting one. There's lots of things to try out and lots of ROIs to calculate, that's for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, and I see you on a lot of things like this. So I think your team has done a great job of like trying out different tools and new tech and seeing it and having fun with it, which has been cool. All right. First question. How did you first get involved with construction technology, and what excites you the most about it?
So how I originally was on the project management side of things, but I was always the person who was just tinkering around, trying new things out just to selfishly help me out and my own project team. And I feel like that went pretty well. I was flying a drone on a job before we had like platforms to put it all in. It was just taking photos and putting them in a folder from the drone. I was doing custom workflows to get 360 photos onto a plan before there were like good platforms for that. I was always just tinkering around with new things. And then eventually that caught on. Other people at the company were seeing that, and then they wanted to do it too. And long story short, just had a conversation with someone. They're like, hey, do you want to do this full time now? And this was earlier on where there weren't a lot of dedicated roles for this, like construction technology adoption. Like there were VDC roles that were more BIM related, but there wasn't a lot of just tech R&D at the time, or it was a lot newer. So yeah, that was a pretty cool thing to jump into early. And man, I obviously love all this technology stuff. So it was an easy yes to switch into that type of role.
When a company invests in new construction technology, what are the key indicators that you look for to determine if it's providing real value? I think about real value, I'll kind of expand on that. I think about real value as like money, time, dollars and cents, and not just like cool factor, because I think there's a lot of cool factor out there right now.
Cool factor is cool, but it's honestly one of the least important factors that you need to look for. I mean, and then so you mentioned some parts of ROI, like the money and the time savings. And those are quantitative values that you can actually calculate most of the time. But some of the more important factors are things like, does it just cause less stress on people? Does this make their workflow easier? And then another really important one is, are people actually going to use it? Because you can do all the calculations you want before and say, oh, this is theoretically going to save you 4 hours a week or whatever. But if people don't actually adopt it and don't use it, then they're not saving that time. It's not benefiting you or your project or company. So that's why I really like when any new software that we use, for example, has like a analytics dashboard where we can go in and actually see usage rates, usage champions, like how many views are getting. For example, like some platforms are even able to see like internal views versus external views. And I love when I can go into a project and be like, oh, wow, we have external views from the owner here, or like a bunch of our subcontractors that are actually going in and looking at all of these photos or something. So actually seeing people use it, that's a big portion of it as well. And it's hard to, as something you can't really calculate beforehand.
Got to try it. Yeah. Indicators.
Does it save time? Does it save money? And like a lot of times it can be easy to calculate that, especially if it's like replacing a workflow that you currently have already. You can say, all right, how much time are you spending on your current workflow? Here's our new option. And okay, this is going to be, save you 4 hours a week. You can put a dollar value to that and you can figure out an ROI. But sometimes though, maybe it's a new, thing you're looking at that it doesn't replace a current workflow or technology that you already have. And then it's kind of harder to calculate an ROI because it's not necessarily comparing directly. Maybe it's just a value add, and like it's hard to put an ROI on that sometimes. So there are a lot of factors in this. It's not just a simple, equation that works for every single new technology you look at.
That's great. I love that answer. So what metrics matter most to project managers, maybe versus executives?
For my answer to that, I would say I kind of said it before, where it's like the actual usage rates of it. I mean, sure, the cost savings are important, especially to a project manager who's, managing budgets and everything. The cost savings is especially important to upper management. But for that direct project team, it can be just like the actual usage rates and how much, better is it making that team's life? Is it causing them less stress? Are they able to work less on a certain workflow so that they can, work on other maybe more important ones, or, maybe go home earlier that day or something? I would say that's probably the most important ones to like a direct project team. But time saving and money saving, that's all important to everyone too. But those are when it actually makes their life easier, that's, I feel like, the most impactful one. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. For example, our software that we use for our closeout process, without even we did do like a time savings ROI calculation and everything, but when we had our final meeting with everyone who had piloted it and our like innovation team, everyone's answer who piloted it was just like, nope, this makes my life so much easier when trying to close out a project. Like, I don't want to use it. I don't want to go back to our old way of doing this. And like, it was like I don't care about the cost savings or whatever you guys calculated. It's like, this made my life easier. I want to keep using this. And when you hear that from multiple people, it's kind of hard to ignore that then.
Well, that may be the answer. Working. This may be the answer to your next question. So can you share an example of a tool that consistently exceeded expectations and what made it successful?
Yeah, I guess that kind of just answered it right there then.
Fine. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that was Builder Closeout. They're used for managing all of our closeout documents, getting them from subcontractors, getting final turnover package over to the owner. Yeah, it was just so much better than what we were previously doing, and it just made everyone's life a lot easier who tested that out. And it's still going great now. We've been using them for a handful of years. And I still will hear how much people like it and how much time it saves them.
Awesome. I think that's a great answer. How do you balance quantitative metrics, things like time saved and cost reduction, with qualitative metrics like team satisfaction, safety improvements, etc., when measuring success? Which, once again, we've kind of talked about. Sounds like you place both of those in sort of high regard. I guess maybe tell me this: if a solution costs a lot of money, because that's the whole point, right? Some of this construction tech is expensive, some of it's not very expensive. How are you going to decide what to go with? Like, how does it have to hit all the areas to make it a yes, or would one matter more than the other?
I feel like it depends on how expensive this is. We're talking if it's switching out your entire project management system or whatever, like that's okay. Money is a huge part of that. That's going to weigh a little bit heavier maybe. But for some of the things we try out, they're smaller and maybe not rolled out enterprise wide, or maybe just within one group, or just kind of another tool in our tool belt that's an option that people can use if it's like an optional cost kind of thing. But if they're like lower cost, it really definitely weighs more towards just the user satisfaction, or however you worded it, and how much better it makes their life. So it varies. I would say for the smaller things that we roll out, the user satisfaction matters more. But for the bigger ones, the more expensive tools, then the cost probably weighs a little more then.
I think that's fair. So now we'll change gears a little bit. We just talked about picking tools. What red flags or warning signs suggest that a new tool or new tech might not be worth the investment?
Well, one, if it doesn't get past me as an initial filter, and because like that's how we work here for the most part. I'd go on, sit on a lot of product demos and everything. And if I'm looking at something and I think to myself, like, okay, this looks like it'd be annoying for me to use. And I think that I have a relatively high tolerance for dealing with workarounds and stuff like that. But the people actually using these tools, they, have full jobs running projects and everything, they can't mess with anything that's going to make their life more difficult at all. So if there are any hoops that they have to jump through, weird workarounds, like they're not going to want to deal with it, and it will just be dead to them, and they're like, okay, I'm going back to whatever I was doing before. So that's like the biggest initial red flag, is if I look at it and go, I wouldn't even want to deal with this, then I don't even want to bring it up to other people. But then on a similar note, sometimes I will think something looks good, and I will bring it to a few teams, have them look at it, maybe even get as far as a pilot. And if during that pilot I see that there's zero usage, or, after we've gone through initial training and it's just not even getting tried much, it's like, okay, maybe this isn't going to click as well as I thought it would. And, at that point, you just kind of have to kill it fast then, because you don't want to drag that out and just waste a lot of people's time and money.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. All right. Our next question: how can teams effectively pilot and test a tool to ensure it will scale and provide long-term value? And I think you probably just answered like 80% of that. Does it work? Do people use it? After training, is it as easy as we thought it was? Anything else to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So with our process, at least, so like I mentioned, we'll have go through an initial filter. Me, and I'll look at it. I'll try it out, maybe in the sandbox, or depending on what it is. And then I usually just run it by a few project managers, superintendents, whoever it's more applicable to, and just talk to them about it, maybe show them and be like, hey, is this something you think you would want to use? And then, if it gets all green lights, then we'll go on and actually do a pilot. And if we wanted to get something to grow, typically, unless it's something like switching a whole project management system, we typically don't want to flip a light switch and say, all right, everyone's using this now. We did 5 pilots, and, they all said it's good, so everyone's going to use this. Sometimes you need to do that, but for the most part, we'd like to do a more organic growth. So we can roll something out, and a handful of teams will be using it. And then instead of relying on me or upper management to push it on everyone, say it works really well on that one project, we'll utilize that superintendent to be the voice or champion of it and say, hey, this worked really well on my project. We loved this. It saved us time or whatever, it helped us argue change orders or whatever, basically get those success stories from the field, and then have them spread it to their peers, other superintendents, other project managers, whatever, because that carries a lot more weight than coming from the tech guy, coming from upper management, shoving it on people. So yeah, to have it organically grow throughout the company. It's a little slower that way, but we've found it to be very successful.
Would you say there's any common misconceptions about construction tech ROI that you think project teams should be aware of?
I mean, we've kind of touched on it, but I'd probably say it's not always just about the money, even though sometimes it is. A lot of times, it's just that can kill a pilot really fast, or a discussion, even when you're first doing an initial demo and then you hear the cost and you're like, oh, okay, cool, see ya. that's way too much. So even though I want to say it's not all about the money, sometimes it is, but like we talked about earlier, there are just those other aspects, just the actual user experience. How much are people actually going to use it? Are they going to enjoy using it? Will they just feel more efficient at their job? Those are just as important, if not more important sometimes. So that'd probably be the biggest misconception, I'd say. Just don't only look at the cost savings.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, last question. So it's a zinger. Looking ahead, what do you think the future of construction tech will look like, and what trends should teams be paying attention to?
That's a super big and vague question, but
super big, yes.
I mean, I was literally just this morning at the job site I was at talking with a superintendent about this, and in my opinion, everything is just becoming more and more accessible and easy to use. I mean, we were talking about just BIM coordination and viewing models and stuff like that, and then we also got to talking about drone stuff too. But we were just talking about how recently, and then it's happening just really fast, how much more accessible all of these tools are to use. I mean, you just think, 5-10 years ago, you weren't having field teams actually access a BIM model that much, because it was harder to do. You needed special software on a good enough computer, but now there are so many viewers that just work really nicely, even on a phone. I mean, we have all of our jobs that are using BIM. It's all loaded up into Procore BIM, and then they're viewing their models on their phone while walking around the job sites. Just having all of this technology be more accessible into people's hands, that's where this is going, and it's really nice because more people actually use it, and it's not just those specialists. Yeah, that's where I see the industry going. I mean, we're even kind of doing that internally. I'm teaching more people how to do scans and create Gaussian splats in our jobs. And I want more people to be knowledgeable to be able to use these tools and technologies. Yeah, I would say that's probably my answer.
Well, Ben, you are a pro as always. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to everyone who is watching. If you want to learn more or hear more about this, follow us on LinkedIn and listen for more of these to come. We'll see you out there.
Thanks, Joe.